I'm gonna get really close.
Okay, we'll have no personal space. Am I kicking you with my shoe? I don't mean to. Welcome to Let the People Decide. We are your hosts. I'm Meow. This is Rarchar Tortorello. Our focus and our topics are going to look at those issues that will impact your heart, your mind, and your souls of the citizens here in Oklahoma. We're going to focus on those things that are national and local. So, things that are going on nationally will impact us locally. We want to inform you, educate you, and activate you. First of all, we'd like to give a shout out to our sponsor, the City Sentinel, that is at city-sentinel.com, and Patriot Sentinel, which is patriotsentinel.com. So I hope that you all go to those websites because they have lots of good information, and that's where I get a lot of my resources from. We want to encourage everyone out there who's watching to go to Facebook, Rumble, like us, comment on us, share it. We are so excited that you're here with us. And today we are going to be speaking about the impact of homelessness with Austin Ball. He is the Norman Ward 1 City Council member. And I believe we're also going to have April Dozier on from Food and Shelter in Norman. So good morning and good morning, Rarchar.
Good morning, Nick. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm
Glad
good.
to be here again. You know what? That traffic from Norman is a killer sometimes, and
Oh, man.
yes, I'm gonna have a remote office in my car just for these moments, so we don't have to rush in like this. But anyways,
I like it.
homelessness is probably Norman's #1 issue. So in a survey that was conducted by the city of Norman in April of 2022, showed that 45% of the respondents said that homelessness was a top issue, needing immediate addressing from the city government. It exceeded the infrastructure and maintenance and public safety, which was tied at 32%. And so, you know, the effects of uncontrolled homelessness on society are far-reaching and can have devastating consequences. Homelessness impacts the mental and physical health of individuals, the economy and public safety, and even the social fabric of communities. Addressing these issues of homelessness requires a comprehensive approach that includes treatment first versus housing first. It's a failed concept that most liberal cities have proven over and over again that it just doesn't work. I mean, taking point, you know, we have allocated about $6.5 million for Section 8 housing, which is not a homeless housing, but when we spend that much money on housing first initiatives here, we are failing to look at the root cause of homelessness, which is mostly substance abuse and mental health issues.
Yes, it is. And there's actually a couple statistics out there. I was doing some research yesterday, and in January of 2023, the Department of Housing and Urban Development did a assessment of homelessness. And what they found was that 30% of people who are homeless have experienced chronic patterns where they've been without a house for up to 12 months.
Right.
60% of those were males.
Right.
And they were indicating that 45% of the homeless population experienced a form of mental illness, with 25% of them having a severe mental illness. And then they also pointed out that there was a vast population that was substance abuse. So, as well.
Look, it's a situation. Do we have a cure for it? Okay. I think going forward, okay, so
we're throwing money at it.
I think full transparency, you know, I am from the city of Norman. I'm the current Ward 5 city council person. Austin, who will be on the show here in about 7 minutes, is the current Ward 1 council member.
Yeah.
And homelessness has always been a touchy issue in the city of Norman. And I think it's been, you know, council doesn't want to offend people, okay?
Yeah.
And it's not really offending people or even demonizing anybody here. we have to look at the root cause of what's happening, not just in the city of Norman, but Oklahoma wide. So Oklahoma City, their homeless population fell from like 1,500 back in 2022, 21 to just a little under 1,300.
Right.
Okay, with their programs. And so what I would like to see first is not a housing first model, but a treatment first. Like VA does this all the time. If we get them into some sort of treatment program, and then as an incentive, we give them housing or show them where to get housing, and provide all the services that they're asking for. Don't forget, a small percentage of homelessness do include veterans, and so that's my wheelhouse. But we have to look at the total program. I mean, look, case in point, just last week in the Sunday Norman transcript, there was a headline that says, this is a battle. Homeless assaults against indoor playground escalates. So there's a small business on Main Street that the homeless like to congregate around that area.
Yes.
And it came to a point where parents have been emailing me over the weekend saying, what are you going to do about this? We cannot have the homeless shelter downtown Norman. It's affecting business. I had a friend call me and say specifically that his children will be going to Sooner Theater for summer vacation in school. They don't want their kids accosted, okay, going to and coming out of these classrooms here. And so the most telling thing about the situation, specifically in Norman, was what the Norman PD had to say about how they will enforce these issues. And basically, they said that they can't, basically. They just don't have the manpower to do so.
Well, yeah.
So, I mean, look, the defunding movement,
Yeah, good.
the funding movement caused a situation where we are lacking officers to go out and actually do what they're supposed to do. Okay, so that's where we're at today. And so, do you call 911 for someone defecating behind your storefronts? Okay, what will happen next? They'll take your order, they'll take the request, they'll take your name and number, but will they send an officer to go and investigate?
Well,
for a misdemeanor.
And that's a good question. And here's my concern too. That's a huge safety issue. If you've got somebody who is leaving human excrement, not only do you have to have that person shopkeeper where children are in a play area and you have to clean that up, but you're talking about human feces, so you're talking about the spreading of disease. Who knows if this person has a drug abuse problem, and now they you saw this, I'm sure you all saw the video of the gentleman who was using the bathroom on the street and then taking it and throwing that excrement at people. And now this is not in Oklahoma, but who knows where we're headed here, because we do have a homeless issue. Yesterday I was driving around and I saw people who were, sleeping in their bags on the street, or they were sitting on the corner and they were just hunched over, sleeping on the street. But you've got a situation now where it's a free-for-all. Those store owners have gone to their city councils.
Right.
They've gone to the police.
Right.
They've asked for help, and they were told hands are tied. Can't do anything. So is that what we're coming to in Oklahoma?
I think we're seeing that now. You know what? There was a stats I saw the other night in California. Right now, the homeless population is like 48,000, but by 2023, projected to reach 100,000. The city of Norman is 138,000 size population. So to keep that in mind and perspective, that we have a state that will have projected, if they stay on target, and continue their failed policies that have not worked for generations, okay? Not to mention the trillions of dollars spent on homelessness and poverty, which have never resulted in anything besides fleecing the taxpayers to continue providing taxpayer-funded programs that just do not work.
Go ahead.
No,
go ahead. I didn't mean to jump in.
I'm going to get on a roll here. I mean, look.
No, I love it.
Look, the roll, the problem we see in Norman, look, we're 138,000 people in the city of Norman here, compared to Oklahoma City, okay? Their homeless population is probably 4 or 5 times the size of what we have here. But Norman and the small town atmosphere we have here, they see the effects. They see why would you want to go to work in the morning? I got an actual email, and Austin, you received the same thing from one of the attorneys downtown, where she actually attached a picture of poop in her back door. I mean, can you imagine getting in your car? You're walking to your office on Main Street, and before you even get there, you smell and you look down, and there is a pile of poop by the back door of your office. And what do? I mean, just last week, we were discussing the shopping cart ordinance, and they had to clean up poop that led into the doors into the dais area outside. Okay, so it's reached the city hall limits in the area there. Something has to be done. I think most Normanites are level-headed. They know that we have to help those that need the help. But the biggest problem that I think, and I think Austin Ball would agree with us, and you would too, is that we have an increase in transients who are just coming to Norman because they're being run out of Moore, Newcastle, Noble, and in Oklahoma City. Norman is going to be the new mecca for homelessness. And this is something, as a city council person and as a local government official, that I just can't, with good conscience, sit back and watch my city deteriorate to where it's going now. Okay, the play pits.
Well, let me just jump in.
I'm going to go back to that.
Okay, we'll go back to the play pit, but let's talk about this for really quick. Oklahoma City. So the city council in Oklahoma City, I've got 3 areas. February of 2023, they have a 1-year, they voted on a 1-year contract with the Mental Health Association to pilot a homeless street outreach program. I think that's wonderful. I think that's great. How much is that going to cost? We're putting money in it. What is the plan? How is that going to be instituted? Who is that going to be impacting? And how are they going to assure that those people get into affordable housing? March of 2023, the City Council of Oklahoma City projected a $55.7 million to be distributed through the MAPS4 program to impact the unhoused. So that's 55.7. Once again, what is the plan? How are they working that? Where is that housing? I see all of these apartments.
Right.
Are they going to homeless? Are they affordable? 30% of those people who are homeless can't afford to pay for housing. So what are we going to do? Are all these apartments that they are building in Oklahoma City, are they going to be used for that? Then in April of 2023, the city council is giving another $12.5 million, this time trying to get it from, or saying they're going to get it from private funds to close down the homeless encampments. So here's my question. We're throwing money after money after money, but I'd like...
Do you see a pattern?
Thank you.
Do you see the pattern?
Yes, we're throwing money, but what are we doing, and how are we going to put those plans in place?
Look, we commissioned an organization to do a study in homelessness.
Okay.
All right, and they came up with a continuum of care.
Yes.
And showed us where the gaps were. But I think, again, many level-headed Oklahomans and Normanites already understand where the gaps are at. Yeah. Okay, we just have to first stop advertising Norman. Don't come to Norman. If we're going to advertise Norman, let's put the sign up and say, hey, we want all businesses to come to Norman. We're open for business. We love our cops and public safety. We want more cops and public safety officials to apply for positions in the city of Norman. Let's advertise that and put those vibes out, and not put the vibes out that, hey, if you want free food or you want a place to hang, come to Norman. Now, I know there's a lot of good nonprofits that do a lot of good work there. And again, we are not demonizing the homelessness. We're not trying to criminalize being homeless. What the issue and the constituents have been calling me about in Austin are the same type of issues. What are you going to do about the defecating in public streets, the sleeping on the sidewalks here? And just recently, again, at the play pit over the weekend, a story in the Norman Transcript, verbally attacking, accosting children.
You can't have it.
Okay,
They've can't have it in a society.
They've crossed the line, Mick, when they go after our kids. We're already seeing it in different areas in schooling and indoctrination in the program we had yesterday.
Yes.
But we'd like to have these common sense conversations with both sides. I'm going to ask April Dozier to come on this week.
Okay.
So she can provide. Look, she does great service to the community. She look. She puts her
That's
money
wonderful, and we need
where
that. Thank
it's
you,
out.
April.
Yeah. So look, it's nonprofits, and that's where it should be. We should not, as a city, compete for money when we have nonprofits that are wanting the same dollars. And so we'd like to have her on, but we have Austin. Austin, are you with us?
Hi,
Yes, sir.
Austin.
Yeah. So
How are you doing?
can you hear us?
Yes, sir. Can you
All
hear
right.
me?
So where are we wrong on this?
I think you two are exactly right, especially with what you're saying. Um, I've talked to a lot of our nonprofits, and we have beds available. Country Road Recovery, they're a new organization. They're having their grand opening in Tecumseh here in just a week. Told me we have 4,400 beds available for those with substance abuse issues in our state alone.
Okay.
So, I mean, there is help out there. I've talked to a lot of our continuum of care here in Norman. Mental health, it's the same thing. I've talked to Lisa Craig, who is our grants administrator. You know Lisa Rarchar.
Yep.
She told me our Section 8 is the waiting list is almost non-existent. She said it's one of the lowest she's ever seen. So for people who want help and want to get off the streets and treat whatever, illness or substance abuse issue they have, we have the resources available. We just have to figure out why people aren't getting there and how we can get people there who need it the most.
That's a really good question. If you've got the resources to treat people for substance abuse problems, which is a large amount, I think what I saw was 30%. The vast majority were, mental health issues, and then substance abuse. If you've got those resources, then what's going on? Is it that, like in California, where they're paying people who are homeless?
Right.
I don't know that that's happening in Oklahoma, so I'm not saying that that's happening. But is it that they don't want to be? I know that there are cities and states where people are building shacks on the street saying, I don't want to live in an apartment. Is it that they just are wanting to not be tied down? I'm trying to determine what is keeping these people from finding and getting into these resources.
And I do not know. A little bit of the research that I've done is talking to Judge Tupper, who runs a fantastic drug court program here in Norman. Amazing success rates. Well, in 2017, the state of Oklahoma, we voted that all simple possession, regardless of the substances, so it doesn't matter if it's fentanyl, heroin, or what, is a misdemeanor. Well, in order to qualify for drug court, it has to be a felony charge. So to get people into drug court, I mean, they have to have pretty much intent to distribute or some other extenuating circumstances that's going to raise that crime to a felony. Now, I don't want to see people in prison for drug use. I mean, I think there's better ways that we can handle that. It's like with rehab, drug court, and so many other programs that we've already set up. But we're cutting ourselves off on how we can get people into these programs if we're not accepting misdemeanor drug possession.
Absolutely.
And just let these people right back out on the street.
Absolutely. Hey, Austin, what's your take on treatment first versus housing first?
I'm a 100% treatment first individual.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing with our Section 8 that we see is we put people on Section 8, and this has happened to, I sadly have a family member that's addicted to heroin, has got into Section 8 numerous times, but has got evicted numerous times because of relapsing into the drugs. Once that happens, a voucher's not going to do you a lot of good because a lot of landlords don't want to rent to somebody with 8 or 9 evictions. I mean, regardless of whether it's Section 8 or not. So
that's really sad to hear. I also have a family member who has been through the crisis center and has been in the psychiatric hospital in Norman, and then just falls back into the pattern. Gets back on drugs, gets off of the meds,
right,
and becomes very violent, delusional.
Right.
So one of the things that I saw too was there is a huge concern, and I'm not trying to attack, but there is a large amount of illegal aliens who are coming across, and they are homeless. They are setting up tents, they're living on the streets, and they are pushing people out of the shelters. Do you see that happening? Because I see it in Oklahoma City. I don't have a statistic because they said it's very hard to get that information because they're so transient, you know,
Right,
you
right.
can't track. But it seems like Oklahoma City maybe tries to move those people along, then they go to Norman. Is that what you see as well? Do you see that as an issue?
I really haven't seen the illegal alien issue here in Norman, and I'm out quite a bit. I go to our parks, um, you know, go to these businesses. They email me with, like you said, the excrement on their doorstep. Try to meet with a lot of homeowners. A lot of squatting going on here in Norman in unoccupied rent houses. I've got emails from doctors, from quite a few residents who own rent houses that have had to evict squatters. But as far as the illegal aliens, I haven't seen that here. I mean, I know it's a problem across the country, and we all know they're coming across the border.
Right.
But I haven't seen them here in Norman myself.
Right. Hey, Austin, on a policy perspective, what do you think city council can do going forward? I don't think we see what we're doing now is working, but on a policy perspective, what would you like to see happen?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we need more police to enforce our laws, and a lot of the laws we already have on the books, as far as no trespassing, um, things like that. I tried to push to get a camping ordinance passed. Our state parks have a camping ordinance. You can't, camp within so many feet of a body of water, of a river. You have to get permission to be there. And a lot of this comes from the manager of the facility.
Right.
So if we're going to do this to keep our parks beautiful, I mean, why can't we implement some of these things to keep our city beautiful, where we actually live, work, and our kids go to school? So, because I mean, less than a mile from me, uh, there's two corners, and I'm kind of in the middle of both of them. They're both
Right.
a mile cat a corner both ways. Um, you will see tents set up in the tree lines. If you go down to our river, there's a homeless encampment down there. So I mean, it's I've been working on this and working on this. You know that, Rarchar. Me and you've worked on it quite a bit together. I talked to Chief Foster, our chief of police. I talked to our officers, and right now, I don't know. I mean, I really don't. Other than just getting people off our streets and making rock, we make rock bottom too comfortable here in Norman, and I think that's one of the things that was going on with my family member, because we even took them to an out-of-state rehab. 2 weeks later, they were back in Norman. They had bummed enough money to buy a bus ticket, and we took them to a rehab in Nebraska. So, I mean, we tried to get them as far away from the situation as we could. But 2 weeks later, they were back here. And when we asked, why did you come back? They said, why should I quit when I have everything I want right here in Norman? My drug dealer is in a tent next to me. If I'm hungry, I can go down here and get a free meal. If I need clothes, if I need a new tent, their tent got flooded out twice, and they were able to just go down and get a tent handed to them. From these nonprofits. So, I mean, we make rock bottom so comfortable here that people don't want to change. And it's been my experience, and I've been there. You have to hit rock bottom in order to want to elevate yourself and get yourself out of that situation. And if not, you're just going to stay there, until you kill yourself with either your mental illness or your drug addiction.
So that's one of the things that I have heard and seen as well, that it's almost as if we make it super easy. We love that there are all of these nonprofits, and there are all of these community centers, shelters, whatnot, that help people. That is wonderful, and I would, support them in every way. But that is a concern, kind of like in California, Oregon.
Right.
They actually have laws now in Oregon where they're calling it a right to rest, where they're saying that person has the right to have privacy and, you know, wherever their property is. So if they're in the middle of the street, if they're in front of a business, if they're in front of a school, I mean, it doesn't matter. They can set up their tent and nobody can infringe upon that. And that's what I'm concerned about. But here's my question. What do we as normal, average, ordinary citizens do? If I'm walking down the street and I own a business, or I come to the studio here and there's somebody who's squatting out on the front lawn, what can I legally and lawfully do with that?
Well, Chief Foster has told me you have to call, whether it's somebody trespassing, whether it's somebody, you know, defecating. If you see something wrong, we have to call. We have to call the police. And he said the more calls they get, they will know where to start directing their officers. They plan their routes around the number of calls that they get in an area. So I mean, that's the number one thing. We have to get the police involved. As business owners here in Norman, I know that I know a group of business owners and private individuals who've been dealing with, you know, this homeless situation for a couple of years now, and they finally got fed up, and they are starting a nonprofit to do family reunification, because we know that the support of a family is one of the best ways to get yourself out of addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing that they're doing is starting a family reunification, but they're also just going out and lobbying our local government. I know that there's going to be quite a few people at our city council meeting tonight because of this. And I mean, other than that, I mean, that's basically what you can do,
Right.
as a private citizen. Because I mean, you don't want to take the law into your own hands, because right next to the lawyer's office
Right.
that Rarchar was talking
That's
about.
Well, we don't want. Look, we don't want people to take the laws into their own hand here. That is something that we don't want to devolve into. You know, we are not that kind of people. But I understand the frustrations of people. Look, in a couple of years, we're going to be an SEC town. Okay, it's going to be an economic boom for Norman going forward. So, you know, as we look at small businesses who are impacted by homelessness, I mean, I'm just going back to what was said here, that this small business on Main Street, that their customers see homeless people yelling, smoking pot,
Yeah.
screaming obscenities at moms and nannies, at mothers and nannies. Okay, one morning they weren't even able to unlock the doors. Okay, because there was a woman out there waiting for the doors to be opened who appeared to be coming off a high or ill. Okay, so it is affecting businesses, and we know that small businesses are the backbone of our country, as it is in Norman. Austin, do you see, if there's no change in the policy by the city of Norman, would the effects be disastrous for the economy of Norman?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, who wants to open a business up somewhere where you're not safe? Who wants to raise a family somewhere where your kids aren't safe? The principal of Longfellow Middle School told me that she had a homeless individual coming up onto school grounds and asking fifth and sixth graders if he could bum a cigarette. A couple of blocks down from the lawyer's office that you was talking about, we had a business owner that he had a homeless person in his doorway. When he went to go open up, he asked him to move, and the gentleman attacked him.
Right.
Police were called, and the individual was taken to jail. I saw the police report, and it went from disturbing the peace to, I think, assault and battery.
Right.
There was also things on there about him being high on substance. You know, had a frothy mouth and was acting very, very strange. So, I mean, it's a dangerous situation, and no business wants to come if they're going to have, if all of everything they do is taken away because of, you know, a homeless person. So,
all good points.
And I think really truly, for those of us who are just trying to live our lives, some of the things that we are frustrated with is the fact that you have people who are out on the street, whether they want to be there or they are, denying that, here's a service, a shelter, or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
They are starting fires in, push carts, which people are concerned that can burn down their houses. There are concerns about the excrement that is left on that we have to clean up,
Right.
that can cause disease. There is the impact on your children and your family. So we're throwing lots and lots of money at it, but are we making any progress? I don't know.
I think, hey, Austin, I want to thank you for showing up this morning here. I'd like to have you back because this is an ongoing conversation.
Absolutely.
But I do know that the tipping point in Norman right now, the keystone moment is when they threaten children.
Yes.
I think when it comes to that, we have to, as city council, as city of Norman, and citizens have to take action when kids' lives are being threatened. So I want to thank Austin Ball. He is Ward 1 City of Norman councilman, my peer and my friend. Thank you for showing up this morning. We appreciate you. And you know what? Our time is up. And Mick,
our time is up. I would like to say, too, for everyone who is out there, if you don't know when your city council meetings are, you need to go out and investigate those. Typically, they have them every couple weeks. Usually they're filmed. But I would encourage everyone to show up because there are things that happen at those city council meetings that we really need to be aware of and let our voices be heard. We want to thank everybody for watching us today. Once again, Rarchar Tortorello, Mick Meow. We are here with a new program, Let the People Decide. We'd like to say thank you to our sponsor, the City Sentinel. You can find them at city-sentinel.com, Patriot Sentinel, patriotsentinel.com. And thank you all so much for being with us. Take care and God bless.
have a nice day, guys. Awesome.
Water whipping, water dripping. Broke the pack, mixed it with the midget.